Hello, hello. So it's the first Friday of October, so that means it's time for first Friday free Fairbanks fiction. So, as always, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been doing since my last video over the past few weeks, and then I'll read you some free fiction because it's the first Friday and we should celebrate. So, had a good month. It's been busy as September always is. Kids go back to school, work seems to ramp up, but it also becomes very autumnal and lovely outside. Strictly's back, so that's good. But also we're gearing up for Halloween. Obviously, we're now in Halloween month itself. So I've kind of been getting lots of promotional posts ready for my Halloween novel, Treat or Trick, which I absolutely love. It's one of the best things I've ever written. It's a choose your own adventure novel. So you get to do things like, should Jack answer the door? Turn to page 6. Or should Jack ignore the doorbell? Turn to page 7. And there's stacks of more decisions that you get to make. So you get to flick back and forth to all these different kind of pathways. So it's got one beginning, one opening chapter, but 26 different endings. And I throw loads of genres in there. There's lots of humour, lots of scares, all about a bloke who's home alone on Halloween. And he gets up to some crazy shenanigans in his house. So I've been spending a lot of time getting ready for that. My other big win is that I heard back from this great magazine based in Glasgow called Firewords. You might have read Firewords. It's a big deal in the UK. Beautiful illustrations, great stories, great poems. But I've had two of my pieces accepted for the next issue, which is the fear issue. So topical to be talking about it in the month of Halloween. So I'm going to have a short story featured and a poem. So very exciting. They're moving to a digital magazine now. So how they're going to work it is they're going to put a fictional piece in each of their in a series of emails called I think it's called the Campfire. Then at the end of that series of emails, they're going to release all the pieces of fiction into like a single digital publication, and that will be the issue itself, which is the fear issue. So yes, look out for Firewords. I'm sure I'll be posting about it and celebrating that win a lot more over the coming weeks and months. Anyway, so much talk from me. I hope you find this stuff interesting. Anyway, I'm now going to read you a story. And I really toyed with whether to read a ghost story because, yeah, it's October, or a Halloween story. But I thought I'd read you a very different piece. It's called The Elephant. It appears in my Boomsticks collection, so my second short story collection. And it's kind of scary, but for different reasons. So it's kind of like magical realism, maybe. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. So here is The Elephant. The living room used to be Janet's favourite room. It was where Mark proposed, where Billy took his first steps, where the three of them would watch Christmas movies, snuggled up on the sofa. It was a comfy room, a happy room, a cosy place where they could spend time as a family. But then the elephant moved in. Now the living room was a stifling, claustrophobic cell. The wretched elephant took up half the room, its head pushed up against the ceiling, and its dorsal bumps wore into the plaster. The entire sofa was moulded round its rear like a child's car seat, and its bulk covered the pictures on the wall. Janet could no longer see her and Mark's wedding portrait, the snaps of their family holidays, or Billy's school photo, the only one that was ever taken. Thanks to the elephant, Janet and Mark were relegated to the armchairs on the other side of the room. Janet was not exactly desperate to reclaim the sofa for herself, but it had been Billy's favourite spot. It was where her son used to stretch out on a Saturday morning to watch cartoons. It was where he would nap after a long game of football with the kids next door. No more. The elephant had claimed the sofa, smearing its stink over the cushions. The three of them, Janet, Mark, and the elephant, sat watching the television. Well, not watching it exactly, but certainly looking at it. The volume was barely loud enough to hear whatever was being shown, but it provided a constant murmuring, which at least filled the silence since she and Mark had stopped talking. Maybe the elephant could hear the television. Its ears were big enough. Janet hated the elephant. She felt like screaming at the stupid thing, but there was no point. It never reacted. It just sat there, silently watching the screen, every bit as absorbed and catatonic as Mark, albeit without a beer in its hand. She once tried flicking between the channels to see if the elephant would react, but it kept staring at the screen with its endless expression of mild curiosity. If she switched the television off, then the elephant would respond with similar indifference. It would simply turn its interest to its depigmented skin, scratching absent-mindedly. The creature's inactivity was maddening. In the early days, not long after it arrived, Janet tried shooing the elephant out of the house with pointless cries like, "Shoo! Go on, get!" She whacked it with a rolled up magazine, but it didn't even flinch. She tried a broomstick next, but that was equally futile. The creature must have weighed 7,000 kilograms. Striking it with a broomstick would have been like hitting a person with a chopstick. She then tried a shovel, and her cries escalated to manic screams. It never occurred to her that the beast might maul her with its tusks in a rage of must. Truth be told, retaliation would have been preferable to its constant indolence. When the shovel didn't work, she broke down in tears, hammering her fists on its leathery hide until her strength left her and she sank to the floor. None of her efforts had the slightest effect. The elephant simply looked at her sadly, but never once moved from the sofa. It was here to stay. The smell was the worst, though. She long since suspected the elephant was relieving itself down the back of the cushions, treating Billy's favourite sofa like a potty or nappy, brimming with mulch. The stink was infuriating. It crept up her nostrils, invaded her head. She could even taste it on her tongue. It made Janet want to smash a wine glass on the floor and rub the shards into her face, anything to distract herself from the stench. Even so, for all the anger she felt towards the elephant, it was nothing compared to what she felt towards Mark. He sat there, night after night, week after week, ignoring the beast. She had no idea how he could do that. The smell of the creature, the size, the audacity of the thing, sitting there like it belonged in Billy's spot, was a foul desecration. Yet Mark seemed not to mind. He never glanced at the elephant, never once wrinkled his nose at its stench. The creature drove Janet to insanity, but Mark acted oblivious. His lids were half closed, and he slumped low, beer in hand, as if wanting to disappear into the cushions, seeping into the upholstery like the elephant's dung. Janet needed help, and Mark was all she had. She wanted more than anything for Mark to say something, anything, to acknowledge the creature was there. A simple glance whenever the elephant fidgeted would be enough, or a tired sigh when he had to shuffle around the beast's bulk. But Mark continued to say nothing of the elephant, and he said nothing to her. Finally, Janet couldn't take it anymore. She shrieked and threw her wine glass at the elephant. It shattered on one of its tusks, and the redness pattered on its skin. The elephant merely blinked in surprise. Janet had had enough. She grabbed the wine bottle next and launched it into the television screen, where it landed with a clunk and a spark. It was enough to make Mark finally stir from his stupor. He looked up, but his reaction was still muted. Rather than shock, he was merely puzzled. "What did you do that for?" "I can't stand it anymore," shouted Janet. "We have to talk about it." "About what?" "About that!" Janet jabbed a finger at Billy's sofa and its proboscidean occupant. "What is the point in talking about it?" said Mark. "It won't change anything." We can't pretend that everything is normal, Janet shouted. She was on her feet now, screaming. We used to talk to each other. Talk to me now. Tell me what you're feeling. Enough, Janet. Mark slammed down his beer can and stood up. There's nothing left to say. The elephant watched the argument quietly, which angered Janet even more. Mark headed for the door. Don't you dare walk away. I need to talk to someone. You're all I have left. Trust me, said Mark. You don't want to talk to me about it. Janet stared in disbelief. You blame me, don't you? Mark sighed, hand resting on the door handle, his back to her. This is why I don't want to talk about it. It's not my fault, Mark, it's not. Her husband still had his back to her. Look at me. Mark shook his head and stormed out without looking back. Janet was left alone in the living room. Well, not alone. The elephant tilted its head to one side. It seemed to be asking, what was that all about? You know damn well, said Janet. She hated the elephant, its uninvited appearance, the void it caused in her marriage, and the way it violated her son's sofa. But despite that hate, Janet and the elephant had one thing in common. An elephant never forgets, and neither does a mother. The end. One of my more serious stories, a bit heavy, a bit out of character possibly for me, but I hope you enjoyed it. It's probably about the closest I get to writing literary fiction. Well, that's it from me. Have a great October, a great Halloween. I'll be back on the first Friday of November with a kind of bonfire night themed story. Another good one, something to look forward to, I promise. But for now, I'll say goodbye. And yeah, please do follow me on social media. Please do look out for my emails every fortnight on a Friday morning. And yeah, keep on reading and writing and enjoying yourself. Okay, bye for now. Bye.